As dawn broke over Jetavana Grove, the disciples gathered to hear the Buddha's words. The air was crisp, serene. He stood near a pond where a lotus flower had bloomed, radiant and fragile. Gesturing to the flower, he began his teaching with calm authority. "Observe this lotus," he said, his voice gentle, yet piercing. "Its beauty lasts only for a fleeting moment." The disciples leaned closer, eager to absorb his wisdom, their minds yearning for clarity. "Its petals will fall," Buddha continued. "Its stem will wither, and it will return to the mud from which it came." The profound silence hung heavy as his disciples reflected on the transient nature of the flower's existence. Ananda, his devoted attendant, broke the silence and asked, "Master, why do we resist the truth of impermanence?" His voice trembled, betraying his deep inner turmoil. Buddha turned toward him, his gaze steady, yet compassionate. "We resist," Buddha said, "because we fear loss. We fear the void left when the impermanent dissolves into nothingness." His words hung in the air, resonating deeply with every disciple present. "Fear is born of ignorance," Buddha continued, "an ignorance that clings to illusions of permanence, to shadows mistaken for reality." He knelt by the pond, cupping a handful of water in his hands, letting it seep through his fingers. "Like this water, life slips through our grasp, defying our attempts to hold it." Another disciple, Sariputta, asked, "Master, how can we overcome this fear and ignorance?" The question hovered, pregnant with hope and longing for truth. Buddha rose and faced his disciples, the lotus framing his silhouette. "The path lies in understanding," he said, his voice as steady as the earth beneath their feet. "To understand impermanence is to embrace it, not resist it." A soft breeze rustled through the grove, carrying his words to every corner of the sacred space. "Acceptance is the key," Buddha explained, "the doorway to the present moment, where truth and peace reside." He pointed to the lotus again, its petals shimmering in the early sunlight. "See its beauty, but know its temporality. Find joy in its fleeting existence." The disciples nodded, their hearts heavy with understanding yet lightened by the clarity of his words. Buddha approached the pond and touched the lotus gently, as if to honor its impermanence. He continued, "Impermanence is not to be feared, but embraced. It teaches us the value of each transient moment." The disciples pondered his words, the weight of impermanence settling into their minds like pebbles into a stream. One disciple, Mahakassapa, said, "Master, if life is impermanent, is it not meaningless?" His voice cracked, revealing his despair and confusion. Buddha turned to him, his eyes filled with boundless compassion. "Impermanence does not rob life of meaning," Buddha replied. "It gives life its profound depth and urgency." He smiled gently, the radiance of his presence dispelling the disciples' doubts like sunlight dissolves mist. "Consider the lotus," Buddha said, lifting it delicately from the pond. "Its beauty lies in its impermanence. If it were eternal, would we treasure it so deeply?" The disciples bowed their heads, absorbing the truth that resonated in his question. Buddha placed the lotus back into the water, letting it float freely, unattached to its roots. "To resist impermanence is to resist life itself," he said, his voice steady but warm. "This resistance traps us in suffering and blinds us to joy." The disciples sat in silence, their minds threading through the complexities of Buddha's teachings. Each word etched itself onto the tablets of their hearts. Deeper than stone, Buddha stepped back, letting the grove's tranquility envelop them once more. "Do not cling," Buddha said finally, his voice softer now, as if the weight of his wisdom had dispersed. "Clinging blinds you to the truth that the present moment offers." The disciples sat quietly, reflecting deeply on his words, and the truth they unveiled. The lotus swayed gently in the pond, its petals beginning to fall. a reflection of Buddha's teachings unfolding before them. The air around them grew still, charged with the sacredness of their shared realization. One disciple, Subhuti, said, "Master, is the present moment our refuge from impermanence?" His tone carried both curiosity and newfound understanding. Buddha turned to him, his smile serene yet invigorating. "The present moment," Buddha replied, "is not a refuge from impermanence, but the gateway to accepting it fully." His disciples bowed deeply, their hearts filled with gratitude for his profound wisdom. As the lotus's petals floated across the pond, Buddha concluded, "Embrace impermanence, and you will find peace. Resist it, and suffering will follow you like a shadow." He walked toward the grove's edge, leaving his disciples to reflect. The teachings etched themselves into their souls, as the beauty of impermanence began to unveil its mysteries to them. Silence enveloped Jetavana Grove once more, but the echo of Buddha's wisdom lingered like a whispered promise of liberation. Another day, another gathering beneath the expansive shade of the banyan tree. The air held a hushed anticipation of truth. Buddha sat cross-legged, serene, his eyes half closed in contemplation, awaiting the right moment to speak. The disciples assembled quietly, their gazes filled with eagerness and reverence. Before him lay the remnants of a golden ornament, discarded by a wealthy merchant seeking solace. Buddha picked it up, its luster dulled by the dust of neglect, and held it aloft. "Behold this object," he said, his voice calm yet resonant, "a symbol of desire, and thus a chain of suffering. Offer love and healing, and the pain within you will begin to transform." Yashodhara's posture straightened slightly, as though Buddha's words carried strength that she could use to rebuild her fractured soul. Buddha observed villagers passing by, their varied expressions offering silent testimonies of joy, sorrow, hope, and resilience. "We are interconnected," Buddha said, "as dew forms on leaves, connected to rain, sky, earth, each element shaping the other. Because desire deceives us, whispering promises of joy in distant tomorrows." Sariputta, his most analytical disciple, broke the silence. "Master," he said, his voice hesitant but firm, "is all desire a source of suffering?" Buddha smiled, a serene expression that softened his features, and replied, "Not all desires harm us, but most are rooted in ignorance." He placed the ornament on the ground, drawing a line in the dirt beside it with a delicate finger. "Desires rooted in craving and clinging create chains. They tether us to dissatisfaction." A young disciple, Rahula, asked, "Master, how can we differentiate between desires that guide and those that bind?" His question was earnest, his tone tinged with youthful curiosity. Buddha folded his hands in his lap, his posture a picture of tranquility. "Desires that arise from wisdom seek liberation. They guide, like a lantern on a dark path," he said gently. "But desires born of craving and attachment bind, like chains dragging the spirit into depths of suffering." He gestured toward the ornament, its golden surface tarnished by time and neglect. The disciples exchanged glances, each reflecting on the desires that pulled at their own hearts. "Desire," Buddha continued, "clouds the mind, distorting reality and creating illusions that lead to sorrow." He gestured toward a bird that landed on a nearby branch, free and unburdened. "See this bird," Buddha said, his voice imbued with a quiet reverence. He walked among them, his presence reminding every heart that suffering could be woven into the threads of compassion. A merchant offered grain to those in need. Subhuti, known for his contemplative nature, asked, "Master, how do we free ourselves from these chains of desire?" His voice trembled slightly, carrying the weight of his longing for liberation. Buddha paused, allowing the question to linger, its depth sinking into the hearts of the disciples. Freedom lies in understanding the nature of desire and seeing it for what it truly is, Buddha replied. Observe your desires without judgment. As a scientist studies a flame, understanding its fuel and limits. The disciples nodded, the simplicity of his advice contrasting with the depth of its implications. Buddha pointed to the ornament once more. This was crafted by human hands, born of labor and intention. Impermanent and incomplete, he said softly. Yet, many crave it, seeing in its golden surface not what it is, but what they wish it to be. Maha Kassapa spoke, his tone laced with contemplative wisdom. Master, does this understanding not require effort and time to truly grasp? His question invited a deeper exploration of Buddha's teaching. Buddha nodded, his movements deliberate and composed. Yes, effort and patience are essential, Buddha said, but let not the pursuit become another form of attachment or longing. He lifted the ornament once more, letting it catch a ray of sunlight, its tarnished beauty momentarily restored. See it clearly, as it is, free of projection or judgment. This is the practice of liberation. A child, who had wandered into the gathering, stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the ornament. Buddha smiled at her curiosity and extended the golden object toward her. She took it hesitantly, turning it over in her small hands, her face a study of innocent fascination. To a child, Buddha said, gesturing toward her, this is merely an object to be explored, free of craving or meaning. The disciples watched, their expressions a mix of understanding and awe, as the child eventually set the ornament down, losing interest. Desire is a learned behavior, Buddha explained, fueled by conditioning and reinforced by ignorance. He gestured toward the assembled disciples, his gaze encompassing them all. Unlearn it by seeing the object of desire for what it truly is. Temporary, limited, and incapable of providing lasting joy. The disciples meditated on his words, their minds wrestling with the simplicity and complexity of his teachings. Buddha rose, his movements as fluid and natural as flowing water, and approached the banyan tree's trunk. This tree, he said, placing his hand on its ancient bark, exists without desire, content in its being, giving shade without expectation. He turned back toward the disciples, his eyes reflecting the quiet wisdom of countless meditations. Be like this tree, grounded and unshaken by the winds of craving, anchored in the present moment. The disciples bowed deeply, their reverence for his teachings evident in their gestures. The golden ornament lay forgotten on the ground, its once treasured value diminished by the clarity of Buddha's words. Desire, Buddha concluded, is not to be destroyed, but understood, transformed into a force that guides rather than binds. The disciples sat in silence, the weight of his wisdom settling into their hearts, illuminating their paths forward. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the grove, the air vibrated with the unspoken commitment of the disciples to free themselves from the chains of desire. The truth of Buddha's teachings lingered, a timeless echo in their spirits. Another day, another gathering under the soft glow of a full moon. The grove carried an air of sacred serenity. Buddha sat calmly, the cracked clay bowl resting in his hands, its imperfections visible under the moonlight. The disciples gathered around, their hearts open to his wisdom, yearning for clarity. This bowl, Buddha began, his voice steady and gentle, though imperfect, fulfills its purpose, holding water and sustaining life. He tilted the bowl slightly, allowing a stream of water to pour onto the earth, nourishing a sprout that emerged nearby. The disciples observed in silence, their minds captivated by the simplicity and depth of his actions. Imperfections, Buddha continued, are part of the nature of existence. Yet, many resist what they perceive as flawed or painful. Ananda asked, his voice hesitant but sincere. Master, why do we resist what is imperfect? His question lingered, like the ripples of water disturbed by the pouring stream. Buddha turned to him, his gaze filled with compassion and understanding. We resist, Buddha replied, because we cling to illusions of perfection, chasing what does not exist and fearing what does. He placed the bowl gently on the ground, its cracks glowing faintly under the moonlight. Perfection, he said, is an illusion crafted by the mind, a futile pursuit that blinds us to reality. Sariputta interjected, his tone thoughtful. Master, how can we learn to accept imperfection without despair or judgment? His question carried the weight of longing for liberation. Acceptance, Buddha replied, is the recognition of reality as it is, without adding or subtracting from its essence. He gestured toward the cracked bowl, allowing its imperfections to stand in silent testimony to his words. Rahula, with youthful curiosity, asked, Master, can acceptance coexist with effort to improve ourselves? Buddha nodded, his movements deliberate, his presence grounding. Effort is virtuous, he said, but it must arise from understanding, not rejection of imperfection. The moonlight illuminated the grove, casting shadows that danced around Buddha and his disciples. The present moment, Buddha said, is imperfect, yet complete. To resist it is to resist life itself. His words hung in the air, resonating deeply within each heart. Mahakassapa spoke, his voice carrying the weight of his contemplative spirit. Master, does acceptance mean surrendering to pain and sorrow? Buddha turned to him, his eyes steady and filled with compassion. Acceptance, Buddha replied, is not surrender but transformation. It is seeing pain as transient, interconnected with joy and growth. He poured another stream of water from the bowl, nurturing the small sprout that reached toward the sky. Freedom lies in embracing the whole of existence, Buddha continued. The beauty and the pain, the imperfection and the wonder. The disciples reflected deeply, their minds weaving through the profound tapestry of his teachings. Subhuti, known for his quiet introspection, asked, Master, how do we cultivate such acceptance in our daily lives? Buddha's gaze softened, his words imbued with calm strength. Observe each moment as it is, without judgment or resistance, he said. He gestured toward the sprout, its fragile form bending toward the moonlight. See how it grows, not despite imperfection but through it. The disciples watched the sprout with renewed clarity, their hearts echoing Buddha's wisdom. Buddha lifted the bowl, showing its cracked surface to his disciples, his movements as fluid as water. This bowl holds water, he said, fulfills its purpose, and sustains life despite its flaws. His voice carried the weight of timeless truth. A child wandered into the grove, her curious gaze fixed on the cracked bowl. Buddha smiled gently and extended it toward her. She took it, her small hands exploring its texture, her face a study of innocent fascination. To a child, Buddha said, imperfection is simply what is, free of judgment or longing for change. The disciples observed, their hearts filled with both reverence and understanding. Buddha continued, be like this child, seeing each imperfection without resistance, embracing the present moment as it unfolds. The child placed the bowl back on the ground, her curiosity satisfied, her presence an embodiment of Buddha's teachings. Mahakassapa spoke again, his tone thoughtful. Master, does acceptance mean we do not strive for change or improvement? Buddha nodded gently, clarifying his teaching. Strive not for perfection, but for growth and understanding within the imperfection, he replied. The cracked bowl, a humble object, transformed into a symbol of profound wisdom under the moonlight. Life is like this bowl, Buddha said, imperfect but purposeful, transient yet complete. His words resonated deeply, illuminating the path for his disciples. Buddha poured the last stream of water from the bowl, the earth absorbing it with quiet dignity. Impermanence and imperfection are not barriers to peace, but gateways to liberation, he said. The disciples bowed deeply, their reverence for his teachings visible in every gesture. Silence enveloped the grove, the cracked bowl and sprout standing as silent witnesses to Buddha's timeless wisdom. The moon continued its gentle descent, casting long shadows and illuminating the sacred space with soft light. The disciples sat quietly, meditating on the profound truths they had just received. Buddha rose, his movements fluid and purposeful, and walked toward the edge of the grove. His disciples remained seated, their hearts filled with gratitude and resolve to embrace the freedom in acceptance. As Buddha's figure disappeared into the night, his teachings lingered like a sacred echo, imprinted on their souls. The cracked bowl remained, a timeless symbol of imperfection, purpose, and liberation, glowing under the moonlight. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.